Round one, fight! Merlin 3 wins.
You know, if you've been around babies and you inhale over their heads, Peter Boyle used to do it on Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm inhaling their youth. And I get an energy from you guys, which is absolutely fantastic. And I really appreciate your welcome. I'm overwhelmed.
Well, it's fantastic. You too lovely, Mark, and it is fantastic to have you. You know, you were here at Celebration 5, and now here we are, Celebration 6. And how does it feel? I mean, you've said how it feels to be back with the fans. How does it feel to be back here and on stage again and getting to talk?
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, you can't imagine. Today I heard at least 20 really beautiful women said, "Oh, I loved you when I was 6 years old." And really, that's pretty much my crowd, of the younger or mentally younger. Trying to think of things that had never been written about in articles or in books, or something special for the people that make the effort to come to something this special. Because I told you last time, you're more like family.
Well, see, I was in the middle of 7 kids. Bill, Terry, Jan, me, Jeannie, Kim, and Patrick.
Cindy.
And my older brother was the overachiever. Oh, what did you do, like Brady Bunch?
Marsha, look, I throw them in when I can.
But, we always watch Brady Bunch and say, "Oh, that's so fake." They're never fighting, not like we fight.
Did you guys fight?
Oh, yeah. Well, we jostled for position. There was only one TV in the... Let me check, or maybe Yoda's in here, I don't know. No, okay. Oh, look, they gave me Excel. Look at that.
What is that? Star Wars Celebration Japan.
Yeah.
Welcome, Japan! I had no idea you were...
Oh, well, I'll just whip it out in the crowd at the end like Mick Jagger.
That's right. So what was that first acting job then? What was it that you did?
Well, I was just going to say that, I started in just when I was a kid, just trying to get attention. With puppets and magic tricks. I love cartoons. I love the comic strips that came to the door every day in the newspapers. But are you talking about professional?
Yeah, professional.
Let's see. I had 2 or 3 lines on the Bill Cosby show. Not the one that was popular. I was on the one where he played a basketball coach. I mean, some of the older people will remember that. And I had a line or two, and was finished by lunchtime. And, but I was so thrilled. I loved Bill Cosby as a kid. I idolized him. I used to listen to his record albums, see him on, the Ed Sullivan Show and so much. And I wanted him to be, I wanted to be Bill Cosby, and he's so funny, and he did that. And instead, he was a professional. He was serious. How do you do? Nice to meet you. And I learned, you've got to understand, it's a business. He's not supposed to come out and be this cuddly character that he created on his record album.
Well, you then pretty much followed that up with A New Hope. I mean, wasn't that one of the things there that you got into? And
which is that?
Star Wars after.
Oh no! What happened was I did a soap opera for 9 months. I was on General Hospital. Wow. Yeah. And again, it was before it was popular. Everything I was on was before it was popular. Because I was before Luke and Laura. It was in the old days when they had the old-fashioned, we'll return to our story after these messages. And then the thing was, I hated soap operas. I wouldn't watch them on a dare. But when I got the part, then I really wanted to be, you know, I mean, it's completely different. The finished product is much different than the process of putting it together. All the actors have great sense of humor when they're putting it on its feet and rehearsing. They're sending it up. I told you before, and I'll tell you again. They'll really,
It's like stage, right? I mean, it's performed pretty much
And
live.
you don't stop for anything. They don't care. We once had an earthquake, and someone improv the brilliant line, "It's only an earthquake," but we just went on. Somebody said they were doing the countdown, and 5, 4, 3, 2, and the Lucille Benson took a drag of her cigarette. She thought she'd stumped it out and put it in the trash can behind the nurse's station. And during the scene, smoke started up between them, and without any explanation, all the nurses just countered over to the elevator so the stage manager could run in and put it out with it. They wouldn't stop. It was like live television, even though we were on a week delay.
Wow.
And it was really a great experience. I tell young actors, boy, if you can get on a soap opera, because you can learn to hit your marks, and you learn about lighting, and learn all this technical stuff, and you know, it's like I say, it's a place to try it out and learn techniques. And I really enjoyed it, even though I didn't think I would so much. I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I was doing all this guest star. I was doing on Street to San Francisco, and I'm on Canon, and I'm on, you know, all these shows that people can see on TV land now. But, and then I did a bunch of TV movies, you know, I did like 5 TV movies, some of them prestigious things. Patricia Neal played my mother, and she's a brilliant actress. And I did this series called The Texas Wheelers, which is a sitcom that Mary Tyler Moore produced. And when it got canceled, Robert Englund, who was a friend of mine at the time, and he later played Freddy Krueger, but he hadn't played Freddy Krueger at the time. He said, "Oh, have you gone out for that new Lucas thing?" I said, "The guy who did American Graffiti?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, no, what is it?" He goes, "It's called the Star Wars, and I think it's some kind of Flash Gordon thing." And I said, "Well, have you gone out for it?" He goes, "Yeah, I didn't make the cut." See, actors won't tell you about a project until they're sure that they didn't get it. Then they're magnanimous and say, "Oh, by the way, have you been out on that Lucas thing?" And I said, "No." And what happened was we went in, and it was like what they call a cattle call, where it's just 50 people in a room, and they don't give you a script, they don't tell. In fact, I went in, and it was Brian De Palma was, George and Brian De Palma were sitting at tables or desks, and he was looking at people for Carrie, the high school horror picture with Sissy Spacek, and George was looking for Star Wars people. And like I said, you have no clue. They didn't talk about anything. They say, "So, tell us a little bit about yourself." And you spend a couple of minutes, just like I am with you, saying, "Well, I've got 7 kids. I graduated from high school in Japan because my dad was in the Navy, and yak, yak, yak." But you don't have a chance to really do a scene or anything. They just want to see how you are. Yeah, you always second guess yourself. But because it was just one of those general interviews, there was no way you could know. I had done the same thing for American Graffiti, and I didn't get a callback. I did that same routine. What was interesting was they saw me for Apocalypse Now to play the farm boy because I projected that sort of empty-headed, freshly smacked in the head innocence that I guess they were looking for. I had a certain cluelessness, that was very valuable. And so I went and I read for Apocalypse Now. Much later came the scene in the mail, 7, 8 pages.
Yeah.
It's in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, and it's with Han Solo. And was it written for just Han or was Obi-Wan? I can't remember. All I know is I read the scene. I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. I said, is this like a Mel Brooks send-up? Because one line, and I listen, I can tell you for sure, I've never forgotten in all my years in show business. You know how long this was ago, decades ago. The Han Solo is saying, "Hey kid, I fulfilled my part of the bargain."
I was hoping you were going to do that.
Turn back. And I said to Han Solo, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt the actual security there is any greater than it was on Apple or Solus. And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. Can you believe that? Can you believe that line? I read it out loud and I'm thinking, I've got to memorize this. And I have no idea if it's, arch, if you do it like with an edge, like a Saturday Night Live sketch, or what is it? Is it a parody? Because if it's like Flash Gordon, it's anachronistic. It's like a throwback to an earlier style.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? And I remember when when I finally went to do it, Harrison was Han Solo, and I knew him from Graffiti, where he played Bob Falfa, and I knew George's work anyway. And I was really begging George for some. Is he sort of like being sarcastic here, and George sort of physically said, let's do it. We'll talk about it later. And I'm looking for Harrison, because is he like, I ain't worked with him before, so I figured, okay, well, it must be normal.
Yeah, you must get it, yeah.
Yeah, and so we did the scene as best we could, and like I said, George is like somebody that, he'll look at it and go, okay, let's do it faster with more intensity. Okay, so. Fear is the greatest defense. I don't get extra serious. I didn't do it that fast, but I just got through it. And then that's when I really had driving home. I'm thinking, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. I didn't have any sense of humor, I didn't have any style or panache. But again, whatever I had, by the way, they cast us in lots. It was me and Harry, I always do this, I call them Harry and Harrison. It was me and Harrison and Carrie, and it was another set of Han, Luke, and Leia. And I remember who Luke was, I remember Leia, I'm not sure about Han Solo, but what I'm saying is they told us later, they didn't mix and match. It was either Team A or Team B.
Wow.
Yeah, and George couldn't really decide, and I heard Marsha had a lot to do with saying, pick those guys.
Yeah.
So we have her to thank or blame regarding your feelings on it. You have to understand, a lot of these characters weren't named until they made them into toys. You know what I mean? So we call that the dustbin robot because he looked like a garbage can, and they call garbage cans dustbins. And then the toys would come out 6 months after the movie came out, and you'd say, oh, that's, and they'd have a name for it, We called him Lobster Man. Who's the one that looks like a lobster?
Akbar?
There you go. I think he did have his name. I think he was Admiral Akbar, to give him all the respect he deserves. It's a true story where you should understand how to be or not be if you're trying to be in voiceover or be an actor. I was in the final consideration to be Snap, Crackle, and/or Pop.
Right.
And I thought I would love a job that run, and just it runs for 30 years or whatever, 2 syllables, and you can send all 3 kids to college. So I was really excited, and they got down. I said, this must be a really important, because I'd been back maybe 4 times, and this time we met the actual executives from Kellogg's.
Yeah.
And they said, well, Mark, you will be playing the role of Pop. And just to loosen what I thought was tension in the air, I said, well, like I'm not right for Snap or Crackle? Come on! And the guy did not even no-slide. He just got and he said, well, Pop is a leader. He's grounded, he's very intelligent. Ooh, did I just lay a big egg? Because I thought that was funny, because come on, they're all sort of like this, come on. Can you really remember this personality difference between Snap, Crackle? Oh, that was funny!
No, I don't.
Oh, like that.
Well, needless to say, I told my agent that story. She goes, "Did you just assume that an advertising executive had a sense of humor? What are you, crazy?" You just choked yourself out of a job, buddy, because I bet you're not getting it. And sure enough, all I have to tell for that experience is this story.
It's a great story, though. I love it.
When I heard about Batman being a series, I read about it in the Comic Buyer's Guide, and they said they were going to do 65 episodes, which is a big buy. You know, that's 13 weeks of original shows, even though they spread it out over much more than that. But 13 times 5 is 65. And they were going to model them after the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons. And they were among my favorite cartoons ever. So I knew they were going for quality. Plus I knew they were signing people like Paul Dini, good writers, Bruce Timm. So I said to my agent, ooh, I want to be on that show. And they relayed that information, and they came back and said, okay, Mark will be in Heart of Ice. They just gave me a part.
That's awesome.
I know, and I said, well, wait a second, what is it? They said, well, it's the first Mr. Freeze episode. And I read the script and I thought, oh, not Mr. Freeze. Oh, Mr. Freeze. And they said, no, Michael and Sarah's Mr. Freeze. I said, oh, okay, I'm fine with it. I'm actually the guy that pushes Freeze into the solution, so I'm sort of the villain's villain. But when I went in there, I totally just geeked out on them. I mean, I wanted them to know I knew Batman backwards and forwards. I'm peppering them with questions. Are you going to do Hugo Strange? Are you going to do Clayface? Are you going to do, I wanted to, are you going to do any episodes where there aren't villains? You know, because I thought the downfall of the Adam West was they got into a formula too quickly. They didn't really make him a detective enough, or they didn't make him do mysteries and so forth. And as much as I, as a kid, loved the TV version, I knew that this had to stand on its own. Well, to make a long story short, I went in, I did the episodes, and I was like, hey, relax, you got the part, you know. Because I'm all over them about, you know, I'm really excited. They had backgrounds there, they had character sketches of all the characters. And what happened was, about 6 weeks later, they decided to, they were casting the Joker. And so I was given the part of Ferris Boyle, but for the Joker, they said, would you like to come in and audition? And I was so sure that there's no way that they would cast somebody that was known for an iconic, good character like Luke. There's no way they're gonna stretch, because they don't have that much imagination. I don't think, you know. There's no way I'm going to get this. And because I was sure there was no way I could get it, I was kind of relaxed.
Sure.
And I was replacing another actor. A wonderful actor who, when I heard his tracks, I went, oh my God, he's a great Joker.
That's pretty common in voiceover.
It
does happen a lot.
Because, yes, in this case, it was a guy who had done so much for the Fox network. He was Captain Hook on Peter Pan and the Pirates. So the Fox executive said, oh, they recognize the voice.
Yeah.
Let's get another person in there. And that's why I don't bring up his name, because he's a brilliant actor. Has nothing to do with talent. It's just, you know, TV executive changing their mind. But I went in and I had to loop an episode. You know, that's where you add the dialogue to already pre-existing animation, which is inhibiting. You know, you have to really, it's a technical.
And you're kind of stuck to those beats and everything too.
Beep, beep.
Yep.
And then you go in with your line. Now, I did read some just wild copy, it wasn't synced to stuff. But I do remember, I always tell people I went to, you know, both ends of the emotional scale. Because when I was pulling out of the parking lot, I thought, that's the best Joker they're ever going to hear. They don't hire me, they're out of their minds. Then a week later, they called and said, they want you for Joker. I went, oh no, I can't do that. She said, why not? I said, I wanted to play somebody that no one had preconceived notions about. I said Clayface. I said Dr. Hugo Strange. I never said Joker. It's too high profile. There's no way I can do that and satisfy everybody, because everybody has an idea of how the Joker should sound.
Yeah, and now that idea is you.
Well.
You brought a little something that you thought you could read
Well,
as the
you know,
Joker.
normally people say, do the Joker, and I do the laugh, or I say, thank you, or whatever, just toss it off. But do you remember an episode of The Man Who Killed Batman, where
Joker loses his reason to be because a small town, no-name thug has apparently killed Batman. Now I think I know it, but this is a cheat sheet in case I forget. But he delivers a eulogy. And the guy who he believes has bumped off Batman is in his presence. Dear friends, today is the day the clown cried. But he cried not for the passing of one man, but for the death of a dream. The dream that one day he would taste victory over his hated enemy, because it was the Batman that made me the happy soul I am today. How I agonized over how to thank him for that. Perhaps with a cyanide pie in the face. Or perhaps an exploding whoopee cushion playfully placed in the Batmobile. But those dreams were dashed by the weaselly Gunsel standing there in our midst. This cowardly, insignificant Goneth who probably got lucky when Batman slipped in the slime trail this loser left behind him, this disgusting mound of hyena filth who's not fit to lick the dirt from my spats. But I digress. The time for sorrow is past. It's time to look to a future filled with smiles, and I'll be smiling again when we take that man there and stick him in that box there and slip him into that vat of acid there. Well, that was fun. Move for Chinese.
You are working on something that is, much like the Joker, a departure from what we know as Luke Skywalker and other roles that you've played.
Now, if you have any wee small ones in the audience, I mean, you might be prepared to put your hands over guys. Although, you know, with HBO and Showtime, they've probably seen a lot gnarlier stuff. This thing's called Sushi Girl. Tony Todd is in it, who's wonderful. The Candyman. It's a first-time director by the name of Kern Saxton, but there's other actors that I like Noah Hathaway from Neverending Story, James Duvall. It's a real cult kind of Tarantino-esque picture about these low-life gangsters that are trying to figure out who absconded with the diamonds from a botched robbery. And it was really out of my comfort zone, but I think a lot of times, like when I did Harrigan Heart or Room Service, when I get to play something that is not, that the people don't expect from me, well, like the Joker, you're much more apt to surprise people if it's out of your wheelhouse. And this thing, when I read it, just scared me. I thought, oh, there's no safety net. It's going to be really either, it'll be great in your best imagination, or it could go horribly wrong and you'll look terrible and you'll have egg on your face. And luckily for me, I think it turned out a lot better than I expected. It's coming out January 14th in theaters. Now, I know it's going to be available on video on demand. It's a small picture. Magnolia Films is releasing it, but hopefully you'll get to see it in the theater. But if you can't see it in the theater, do it on video on demand. I think it really deserves to be seen, because I'm happy with what I did, but I'm telling you, Tony Todd is masterful. I mean, it's one of the great performances I've seen.
Well, we have a masterful scene of you in action in Sushi Girl, so let's take a look at the monitors. And be warned, yeah, it might be a little more.
Yeah, and so trying to do this.
How about a little lesson in how to use chopsticks, Max? So how about it, fishy boy? Got anything to say? Not to you. That's too bad.
What the f*** are you gonna do with those, man?
Acupuncture.
This is I don't have to admit I'm stealing this joke from Carrie, but that's actually referred to as a hair don't. The way I look. You know, I thought, you know what I should do? First of all, I knew I wanted an arresting look for this guy, because he's really bad news. Psychopath and, you know, sadistic guy. I want a real arresting look, so I thought, how about if I shave my head bald? Now, I don't know where my marriage became a democracy, but my wife immediately voted no. And I forgot, Tony's bald, so it would look bad if we were two cue balls. So I said, well, let's go in the opposite direction, and that's how we wound up with Kurt Cobain on a bad day.
Well, it looks very intense, but very cool, and I can't wait to see the rest of it. So
It is. And like I say, when I read it, I went, ooh, this is just too much. I mean, that scene is like a walk in the park. I mean, it gets even more intense. And what I did is I had my daughter Chelsea read it, and Griffin, my second son, read it. Nathan's too busy. By the way, watch Nathan's cartoons. It's called Weasel Town, and it's on YouTube. And he did them all with, he didn't even ask me to do a voice, which I think I'm so proud of him, you know what I mean? I said, give me some of your merchandise, I'll put it on the table down at the celebration. Push it, no. He wants to do it on his own, so that's good. But anyway, very cool. Yeah, so I read, Chelsea read it, Griffin read it, they said, you know, come on, it's like no worse than Reservoir Dogs, which it sort of resembles. And so I thought, you know what, I shouldn't read it as Mark, I should read it as Crow. I mean, that's my character. I should read it in character. And then when I read it in character, it's practically a comedy. Seriously. You know what I mean? Because this guy loves violence. He really gets off on it. So it's me that's kind of squeamish. I mean, I wasn't even sure I wanted to watch that clip.
But okay, so that is going to be coming out, and we are looking forward to it. And I would love to throw it to the audience.
Yes.
Would you be willing to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
Well, then, you know, it's time we take it to the Jedi Council with a little bit of.
And now, questions from the council.
You are our Jedi Council, and you have Master Skywalker here. Who would like to ask?
Hi, my name is Neil. I love your work as Skips on regular show.
Oh, Skips on regular show.
You know what I'm doing? I'm doing Lionel Stander. Remember that actor on Heart to Heart?
Yeah.
What I like about Skips is he's like deadpan. I don't even have to, I read the scripts, but I don't have to interpret.
Because he never ever does. He doesn't go high, he doesn't go low, he always goes like this.
So there's no prep, really, just like that. So what's your question?
What do you find harder doing, voice acting or screen acting?
Well, it's also different. People say, how's it different from the stage? How's it different from TV? Every medium is different. And really with animation, if I had to say broadly how it's different is that a lot of the times, because it's limited animation, you're going to want to animate your voice. So you might over-interpret in certain areas in ways that you could be subtle if they could see you. And one of the things I love about voiceover is it's so liberating, because if people can't see you, you can make choices you'd never make if the camera were on you. I saw a making of Mask of the Phantasm, and I was appalled the way I look when I'm doing the Joker. Pulling my hair and grinding my teeth, I mean, it's appalling. But when they can't see you, it's really let your imagination just fly.
Yes.
Mark, it's an honor to speak with you. It's such a pleasure. I saw Star Wars when I was 5 in 1977.
I see you on the screen. I don't know where you are in the audience, but
Can you give us any insight about the rehearsal process on the 3 movies, like working with Alec Guinness, for example, and even Harrison Ford? I mean,
Frank Oz.
Frank Oz even.
Well, first of all, there was a physical aspect where they said they do judo classes and kendo, which is Japanese sword fighting. And when we were doing that, well, you know, I actually got made a member. I'm really proud. The British Stunt Association gave me a card because I did so many of my own. Of course, when you're young, you want to do everything. You get to be my age and you go, can't the devil do this? I mean,
It's just walking to the car.
But no, I really, yeah, exactly. But I really have such admiration for these people. I mean, Guinness couldn't have been more like you wanted him to be. I mean, he was the kindest, funniest, just a gentleman, and he had a great sense of humor. I remember one time we were sitting in Lady Guinness, we were in North Africa, in Tunisia, and she was sketching a building, and a policeman came by and saw this. He was a security guard, because we were out in the middle of nowhere shooting, and he just became really alarmed. He grabbed the sketchbook out of her hand, ripped off the page that she was drawing, and ripped it all up and was cursing us out in Arabic. And we were all astonished. And Guinness said, "I wonder who that was." And I remember, I knew he had a sense of humor. I said, "I don't know, unless maybe it was a local critic." Art critic, I did get that in. No, the thing was, she was sketching a mosque, which is taboo in that religion, so that's what he was reacting to. But I mean, Alec loved my irreverence, and he really laughed hard. Lady Guinness wasn't as fond of me as he was. But no, he was fantastic. I didn't get to work in any scenes with Peter Cushing, so I said on my day off, can I come in so I can meet Peter Cushing? Because I'm a huge Hammer movie fan. And, oh yeah, again, I mean, he was astonished how much I knew about his career, because I asked him about working with Laurel and Hardy when he did A Chump at Oxford. I asked him what it was like standing in for, I think it was Leslie Howard in The Man in the Iron Mask, where they were doing, twins, and he would do both parts, and they'd cut him out of the movie. So that must have been weird. He said, no, I really thought that was great, because I was able to learn my craft and know that I would be appearing in the finished film. But what a guy. I mean, when he had a cigarette, he would put on a lavender glove and smoke. And later when I got to, because I spent all day with him, like 2 or 3 days. Can I ask why you do that? But I shan't wish to put the nicotine smell on anyone's other person's hands. So when he shook hands, he didn't want to transfer that cigarette smell. I mean, who else would think of that? And certainly no American. But, and he could do anything. He could play Sherlock Holmes, and he could play the insane Dr. Frankenstein. He was really one of the most versatile actors ever. But I know your question was about rehearsal, and the most rehearsal we got was with Frank Oz and Yoda, because A, they didn't know if it was going to work. It was before CGI. I mean, there's one shot where there's a little person in a costume so he can run along. I don't even know if that's still in the final film.
Oh, there was actually someone in it?
I think there was. Is there one shot where you see him in the distance running? Here's the thing that I was so interested, because really, it's the Muppets are, he's walking along, it's framed out. You don't see, many years, and he's walking along, and I thought, to me, he was instantly real. I went on a weekend. We did all day Saturday and all day Sunday of just doing Frank, and Wendy did the left hand, and what was her name? Jane was on the ears and the eyes. So it's like 4 of us. But my point is, to me, Yoda was instantly real. I mean, I looked at him, and it just worked for me. But what I thought was most interesting is, there's one shot really early on where you see him get up on Luke's trunk, and he puts one knee up, and then they cut away, and I go, get off of that. They cut back to Luke saying, get off of that, that's mine. And just the idea of him putting one knee up, the audience saw that, and then immediately accepted him walking along where you never saw his feet. I mean, that's what was explained to me later, is why they did that shot. But that was, I thought, so smart of them. Frank also is just a really wonderful, easygoing presence. I just bonded in with him immediately. I mean, I was a gigantic Muppets fan from, as long as I can remember. Yes, I know this pretty personally.
That they're on Dagobah. That's the best part.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Kermit, okay.
About that.
Piggy, she's dressed up pretty good for
Yeah,
her.
so now Frank
looks a little upset by her.
But see, you're reading that into his expression. Frank does both Piggy and Yoda, and of course Jim did Kermit. You know, funny thing is when I went to go to meet the Muppet Writers, because I was going to do an episode, they took a joke that really happened for real. Jim Henson said, well, you know, we really want to emphasize your talents. If you sing or dance or anything, is there anything that you'd like to do? Well, you know, I've been known to do impressions. You know what he said? He goes, great, who do you do?
Talk about a leveler, right? You know, like, you know. So, but that went right in the show.
Jim was a sweetheart of a guy, but again, he was so sincere. I mean, really the soul of Kermit is Jim Henson. You know, he really was just one of a kind. And, you know, we heard Jerry Nelson passed away just today. And so it's another great loss. One of our greatest friends of my life was Richard Hunt, who did Scooter. And we remained friends for years. I mean, we visited together. They were really a large part of our showbiz friends, because they were in show business, but they were also down to earth and real. You could really relate to them. And you know,
you know what? I think if you looked at the screen for a second, we might see you in action.
Okay. Question to the council.
Kermit, hold it! You're Mark Hamill. Yes. Huh?
No. He's my cousin. That's it. He's my cousin, and he's right outside.
Well, go get him! Hurry! I want to see him! Run! Oh boy! I'm a big fan of his.
Hiya, Fozzie.
Oh, wow! Hey, you know what? You could be a guest on this very show, right, Kermit?
Oh, well, maybe. What do you do, Mark?
Oh, well, you know, I've been known to do impressions. Hey!
Who do you do?
Oh, well, I just love impressions. I just love doing them. Terrific! Who do you do?
Maybe I just better sing.
Oh, boy, yeah. Be my love, for only you can end this yearning.
Let's have some boundaries.
So, okay, do we have time for at least one more question here? Where are you guys at?
I've got Ben up here.
Okay, Elliot, go for it.
Up here.
Yep, way up. Right up.
Yeah, okay, what's your question?
As a fan of the genre yourself, do you ever feel like you missed out on anything not being able to experience the films as we have as fans?
That's a great question.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, because you know, even if you go see a show taped live, you know, you go see like a taping of the Mary Tyler Moore show, you'll never see that show the same way again. Because you've seen the sets, you know, you've seen the cameras, and it just alters your perception of that reality. Because I mean, even though I'm in the business, and I'm sure it happens to you too, you watch Cheers and you just believe that. You believe they're in a bar in Boston. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but a lot of times, you know, especially when I get when I see just the absolute exuberance that you display for the stuff that you like, I have to put myself back in that head and go, oh yeah. You know, I can totally see it from your point of view, even though the magic is all deconstructed for me. You know, and I have to remind myself that you know, because next week I'll be in my backyard picking up after my dog and bringing the trash cans out to the curb. And, you know, it's only in this experience where I'm somebody that's considered special, and you know, you'll meet somebody online and you realize, oh, they're really overwhelmed just because I'm here. And yet, I remember I was in first class section one time and I saw George Harrison was on the same plane, so I gave a note to the stewardess and said, I don't want to bother him, but would I love to meet George Harrison. And so she went over, she came back a few minutes later, and she said, Mr. Harrison, said you could come over and say hello. So I went over there, And I'm looking at George Harrison. Now, I was 12, 11 when the Beatles came out. Summer of '63, we heard a record we didn't know was them, and they were on the Ed Sullivan Show. But my point is, I got such a lump in my throat. I thought, if I talk, I'm gonna cry like a little girl. Because I got all, verklempt, as they say. So I was going, I managed to squeak out, I just wanted to thank you for all the music. I just think you're fantastic, and I'm so thankful for all the music. He looked up, he went, and also that yourself. Are you ready for that? I could have died and gone to heaven right there. So I'm not trying to compare myself to somebody as great as that, but what I'm saying is, putting it in perspective, you go, okay, I kind of get this now. Because really what you want to do when things go crazy, like Star Wars, you want to reassure yourself that you're the same person, nothing's really changed fundamentally. Everybody, just the world's gone insane. That's all it is. Because, you can't explain it by any rational kind of logic, but there you go.
You don't have to.
And I don't remember what the question was anymore.
But you did great.
I had to throw this like a bridal bouquet.
Do it. Go for it.
I'm just in.
Oh.
Who got that?
Wow, it was a...
Don't injure yourself.
Sue. That was great.
And I had very reasonable rates.
They're ripping it in half right now. Pieces.
What's that?
Clone Wars. It's the
Oh,
show
yeah, but
on
see,
television.
listen, wait a minute. Doesn't Clone Wars take place between the prequels and the original trilogy? So Luke would either be an infant to 17, 18.
Play something else!
Sorry?
Play something else.
They want you to play somebody else on it. You can do what you want.
Start a letter writing campaign. Look at me shamelessly pandering for a job.
You know, Mark, I know a few people on that show.
I've heard. This guy and Matt Lanter and Tom Kane.
Yeah.
There's so many people on that show. I checked it out. It's really well written. It's incredibly well cast. So, anything can happen, but so far, no one's asked. Well, let's see.
Yeah, no, okay.
I could play like a really sickening character, like Darth Barf.
Yeah. That'd be cool if you were like a bad guy on the show. Wouldn't that
Something
be
like that.
Be different? Okay, well, this is great. We could go all night, but ladies and gentlemen, please give me a warm round